Hello out there to my Facebook friends, clients, and the like. I'm Jonathan Bengal here, the host of Naked Tax Talk, coming to you live from my office here with JB Financial. Thank you to them for allowing us to use their space. It's a show where we bear down to the naked truth about your tax life, be it personal, professional, business wise, I should say, and financial success. So anyways, before I go on though, I do want to do a quick shout out for myself. And that is that I've been bragging for a while now. And that is I wrote a book called The ABCs of Deductions, an entrepreneur's guide to tax write-offs. It's a small pocket-sized book, about 40 pages. And I took the letter of the alphabets, A through Z, and I basically took key deductions for each of the letters. And instead of it being a boring, typical tax book where, I'd say Section 1202 allows us to elect for small business for capital gain stocks on a corporation, right? Boring. So instead, what I did was I said, well, for example, A is for advertising. And so I can tell you the story about how the government wants us to be successful and why ultimately Uncle Sam wants us to go out there and to advertise. And in many ways, if you think about it, what I'm doing right here, right now with my show is I'm actually advertising, right? And so because I'm doing that, Uncle Sam's like, yo, what's up? What's up? I want you to make sure that when you file your taxes at the end of the year, that you tell me that you, in fact, were spending time to make sure that you were being seen, heard, and recognized so that people can fall in love with you and ultimately do business with you, which means you made money. And if you followed my rules, this is Uncle Sam talking, if you followed my rules, then I'm going to let you deduct that and ultimately pay me less in tax. So I wrote this book, Naked Tax Talk, with that being the concept. A story behind each letter as to why Uncle Sam wants us to be successful. And as always, this program is an interactive interview. So if you want to leave comments like Jacob did, and he wants to get a copy of my book, yes, Jacob, you will get a signed copy of it, I promise. Then you can actually leave some comments and I do my best to interact with you as I go through my little program. And let's say, for example, you're like, I would love to get my hands on your book. In fact, I'd like to help you to support you and send it out there to the world on your behalf and have other people purchase this book and also get your hands on it before the general public does so you can immediately experience overnight savings. Then what I'm going to suggest is that you send me a text message to 555-888 to under the cover, or reverse that, under the cover to 555-888, and you will be added to my launch team. And as I was reminded the other day, because I am working with my whole entire marketing team. By the way, I wanted to share this, and in a minute we'll get to the core of my story of today's show, which is chapter 2 of the Camino de Santiago. But before I get there, I'm kind of reminded that I am just a small business owner. Right? I'm like an average American out there that decided that I were tired of working for people, in my case, either for firing me because I was too flamboyant and cute, or just quite honestly, I never fit into the right mold. And so I'm just a small business owner. And as a result, sometimes I forget how powerful it is to be a leader, how powerful it is to be an authority figure, or better yet, how powerful it is to be able to have the people that are working around you to support you, to lift you up, to help your dreams become a reality. And it dawned on me the other day when I had decided I needed to gather all of my team together to help me to launch the ABCs of Deductions. So I had a Dee Collins, shout out to you, Dee, who's my publicist and my editor. She showed up because we had to make sure we follow her guidelines. I had to invite my CensorBot, which is my virtual employee. His name is CensorBot. By the way, if you wanted to play with CensorBot and you'd like to find out about him, and if you'd like to find out what kind of tax personality type you are, text again 555-888 to Let's Get Naked, all one word, and you'll experience CensorBot. So thanks to RJ and her team at Black Belt Bots, they created CensorBot for you guys to find out what kind of tax personality you are. Well, I gave them that, but the point is you get to find that out. So I had to bring them in too, right? Because we're going to use SensorBot to help with dispensing the information for the coming out of the book. And then I realized that I had to bring in my social media specialist. Her name is Christelle, and I had to bring her in so she could be part of this and knew kind of like what we're trying to do and what direction we're take. And then I had to bring in my director of operations to be part of the meeting. And then I had to bring in my business coach into the meeting, and then I had to bring in my video and my strategist to the meeting. So next thing you know it, I'm surrounded by, I don't know, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 people in the same meeting, all so that we could strategize behind the ABC's launch and getting that out there. And I have to tell you guys, I never really ever thought it would be possible. Maybe subconsciously, I never thought it was, and consciously, I just maybe never thought about it. And it kind of reminds me of the time, for example, when I was a young boy. And as a young boy, everyone who's met me at some point knows that I am a child of, I was a child of poverty, and I came from extreme poverty. And I have to say that because it's not just like, your parents like lived in a small little 2-bedroom house with a car that was from 20 years before. No. Extreme poverty is growing up in projects. Extreme poverty is the inability to basically get other variety of foods except for the staple of food. And I give my mother a lot of thanks because we did eat beans and rice and tortillas, homemade, by the way, which I do miss, and that kind of stuff, the staples. But everything else outside of that was always like a treat or a luxury. Even going to like McDonald's later on in my teen years, that was a luxury. So can you imagine, like, now you look back at McDonald's and you're like, ugh. But as a child, that was such a luxury because you never had it all the time. So for me, growing up in extreme poverty, it also meant that I also didn't think it was possible. I never imagined that I would be somebody who would be able to rise up and be able to truly travel the world and to see everything. And for whatever reason, I grew up as a big, huge Francophile, which means somebody who absolutely loves everything French. And I don't know. So donc, c'est la raison que je parle français. And I just know that now as an adult, the universe would send me to France the first time in 1997. I won a full paid scholarship and I got to go. And I would end up becoming a family member of the French family in southern France, the Purères. So shout out to you guys, to Laetitia, my French sister. And like I became part of their family. I didn't know that was what's happening at the time, but that's what kind of evolved. And ever since, I've gone back every other 3 years or so. I go back and I see my family there. I see my amazing friends there. Lucy, shout out to you, Lucy Garcia. Je pars à toi aussi. And reality is I got to see France. I see France every other year practically. And like, I forget, like, here was a little boy who, would not envied, but would be like looking at all the other boys and girls around them that had brand new clothes and, brand new paper for school, for example, or brand new supplies. And we always had like leftover supplies because my father was a janitor. It's a whole other story for another program, but he was a janitor. And sometimes he would bring over the spent pencils and markers and crayons. And that's kind of what became our writing utensils. And so a child like that goes, man, would I ever see anything outside of what I'm growing up in, and how fortunate I am. So in looking at that, I also forget sometimes that I surround myself around amazing people that helps to take me to make my dreams come to become a reality. And so to surround myself around 10 people, all basically saying to me, JB, you are the creator. You've created the ABCs of Deductions. And we're going to do, oh my gosh, I forgot to shout out to Janet Hernandez of Think Dapper, who is the branding specialist behind me. She's a freaking genius too, with the whole logo design, everything. So everyone was all telling me, you're the creator and you are going to take this to a whole new level. And so to hear that, hear the encouragement, like it just brightens my day. And it's a reminder that I created this through the help of others. And so I'm very, very grateful for that. And there's one other thing I never thought I would do. And that is that I never thought that I would find a faith, a practice that would truly accept me for me. The reality of the flamboyantness, the creativity, the outside of the realm of thinking, all of that. And I would discover Buddhism. And as a result of discovering Buddhism when I was in my early 30s, It was a result of, believe it or not, the people in my life that were truly pushing down on me, the bullies, the true bullies. In this case, at that time, I was a teacher. It was the bullies, the administration that were bullying me. And I took that on for 3.5 years. And what it did is it, in a way, challenged me to find a solution to my suffering. And what I would end up finding is a faith or a practice, and we call it Buddhism. And so I began to study every Monday, every Tuesday, every Sunday, participate. I would go in and I dived into the most difficult, complex parts of Buddhism you could ever imagine. And what was so amazing is that in 2013, this time of year, in June, my husband and I walked 900 kilometers, 560 miles across Spain, northern Spain, so southern France, down into Spain, and then we would end at Santiago Compostela. And in that moment, this is when I start to see all of the Buddhist teachings that I was meditating on, from kindness, love, giving, peace, all the virtuous actions that we aspire to, ultimate happiness that we all crave. I saw that. I saw the Camino become a representation of our human existence. I saw it become an analogy of what it's like to be in our human experience. And so for me, when we were walking on this Camino, I just kept seeing all the various aspects of life coming to reality. And so last week, I did chapter 1 when we basically left Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, and how we hiked across over the Pyrenees, about 1.5 miles in altitude. We climbed over 8 hours, landing at the very top, unable to see in front of us because of the fog. And I, of course, talked about how that represents ignorance of human existence, and ultimately how it represents us as business owners, the ignorance behind our taxes and our tax life. And so I ended the show when we arrived at Ronchevaux, so Ronchevaux in French, which was, again, a small town that's out just beneath the footlands of the Pyrenees on the Spanish side. So now we'll conclude with the show. We'll continue, I should say. So chapter 2, and it's us walking now from Ronchevaux to Zubiri, which is, in this segment, is when I learned the valuable lesson of age. So without further ado, let me bring up this awesome possum photograph. And so here we go. So here I am the following morning. This evening, we had basically had no idea what we were doing. We arrived in Ronchevaux, and we took off all our shoes. And what we did not know is that part of our adventure, part of our daily routine, would be to take off our shoes and put them on these shoe racks. You'd see this everywhere we stopped. And you would essentially get out of your walking clothes. So it would be your pants or your shorts that day, or your shirts. We'd get out and we'd put on like comfy clothes, like a t-shirt and shorts or something. And then we'd make our beds, because you only provide you a mattress. And so you've got to provide your own bedding, blankets, pillows, you name it, you got to provide your own. And so you kind of set up shop, and then, of course, you would converse with your fellow pilgrims. And this particular day, we had met a team called Team California. And on the Camino, what happens is, over time, you began to take on new. Sorry, I'm going to look for something here right now. You began to take on. Boom, 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 boom. Sorry, I got distracted there. You began to take on like nicknames, because you don't really know each other's names. You kind of like see people's faces and all that stuff, but you don't know who they really are. And so you just kind of come up with names. And in one case, we met this young couple. They were 18 years old. They had come from California. They're Americans, so we spoke English just fine, obviously. And we would deem them Team California. And so we ended up walking with them the next morning. So, by the way, this is about 6:30 in the morning. The routine is you got to get up around 6. You're packed and you're ready to go by 6:30. You're not eating breakfast in the berges, and you're not necessarily doing like coffee, which is like, hello here, peeps. Like, I'm a big coffee drinker, and I had to get used to the fact that I couldn't just go get coffee. So, needless to say, we leave this morning. And so I took this photograph. I should say Blaine took this picture of me. We're 790 kilometers away from the end of our journey. We are now 34 days more to go before we get to the end of our journey. And last week, I pointed out that when we started in Saint-Jean, Pied-de-Port, they give you this passport, and you present this passport to the Catholic Church at the end of it at the cathedral. And what it is essentially a passport. It stamps every time that you stop at a city, you get a stamp, especially when you stop in an albergue. And so it's proof that you've walked at least, I believe it's 100 kilometers, but we had to do it the traditional way. So we had to put in the 900 kilometers. But this is what you get. So you get like a passport and you stamp it. And each time you stop a new night, you get a new stamp. And in a way, it records your history of where you've been. So we just left Ronchevaux. We're now walking. As you can see, there's some pilgrims ahead of me. You can tell it's kind of cold. I've got 2 jackets on. I got a sweater. I've got a jacket. I've got 5 pairs of pants, 5 pairs of shirts. I think it's like 2 or 4 pairs of shorts in there, some socks, my toiletries, my hat, you name it. I've got the whole village in my backpack. And you have to carry your own water, which, by the way, water is freaking heavy. By the way, Marion, hello, you sent me a message. I'm going to acknowledge you. So hello and evening to you. Yes, just wait for the rest of this journey. So needless to say, so we're continuing on. We're continuing to walk, enjoying the beautiful, cool weather. There we are. There's Blaine's backpack. By the way, he'll be featured all the time because I'm the photographer. And I just had to take this picture because for me, what it's going to represent is the foreshadowing of the journey that we're about to take and the extreme journey, honestly, that we were about to embark upon. In fact, I picked up on that on day 1 and now day 2, and I thought, man, this is beautiful. I've got a side silhouette of my husband there standing in front of a sign, and I thought, this is the foreshadow of our future. So that's why I took this photograph. So there's Tanner and his girlfriend. I can't remember her name at the moment, but this is Team California. And we had a great time. We actually walked with them the whole rest of this day until we got to the town of, we were supposed to stop in the town of Zubiri, but we would later go to another town instead in the city of, I think it's called Navarra, or maybe that's the state of Navarra. I don't know. La Rosona. And this is kind of unique. So by the way, this photograph, you see up there, that little dot right there, that little thing, we were up there the day before. So it gives you an idea of where we've come from. And this is the moment when I realized that in real life, the past is really all about this. It's about looking into the past. It's about looking back there to see where we've come from. And the notion of the past isn't to dwell in it, isn't to get trapped into the negativity of the past, isn't to to reminisce and go, oh my gosh, like what could have been, what should have been, all of that negative stuff that we like to do to ourselves. It's about looking to the past and double checking and going, wow, I came from there. My husband and I, we were right there on that little snow patch. In previous pictures, you can actually see, we have the close-up pictures of us being on that little snow patch. That's where we were the day before, and we had hiked down that mountain into Ronchevaux. So now we're going to keep on going forward. And remember, the thing about the Camino is that you're always looking for signs about where you're supposed to walk. And so you're always looking out for these little conch symbols, blue and yellow, that tells you you're on the path. And it also sometimes, like in this case, we have arrows that are drawn on the street to let us know like you're headed in the right path. It kind of reminds me a little bit about tax planning. Tax planning is like that. It kind of gives you a plan that you as a business owner can follow and use it like a map and go, okay, so first is I'm going to make sure that I'm in the right entity structure. I'm going to make sure that I'm maximizing my taxes, as in my minimizing them, if I'm first following the first thing I have to do. And so in a way, a tax plan works like this. It's guiding you along your journey. And so just like me walking, that's exactly what was happening. Now, this is a gorgeous picture because what it's showing me and what's showing us is that we've got pilgrims. You can see them walking, and you can see them a little bit back there. You'll always be surrounded by people all the time. And you know what? This kind of started helping me to remember. It's those moments that we feel like we're alone, like there's nobody around us. Like, I'm in a room full of people, but I still feel alone. Or I am alone. I'm right now by myself in my office space. I feel like I'm alone. And what I realized is that reality is if we look just a little bit past, we can actually see that we're not. And in this case, it was a reminder, and this comes up a lot. You see a lot of pilgrims because there are times where you walk by yourself. Like in this case, where I was the slowest walker. By the way, I also learned that just like in real life, you cannot walk the same way other people walk. You cannot have the same stride as somebody else. And the truth is you have to learn how to walk your way. You have to learn to walk at your pace. And the reason why that's important is because, like, especially like a business owner, for example, we wake up and we go, I'm going to be this fabulous, amazing business owner. And we don't necessarily realize that we're actually comparing ourselves to other business owners. And so then we kind of beat ourselves, right? Like, oh man, I don't have the right marketing strategy. I don't have the right talk show. I don't have the right email sequencing. I don't have the right this, the da. And so you begin to beat yourself up. And instead, what we learn is that you just start following your own drums, baby. You just start walking your own walk. And eventually you are you become you. In this case, I was just a struggling walker at the time, walking on this path. But then eventually you kind of go like, yes. And so this is when people truly begin to see the authentic you for who you are and all of your amazingness. So there's Blaine. He's taking a sip of water. This is really fascinating, this photograph, because this photograph is going to teach us a lesson thanks to Team California, who are the 18-year-olds, and we're 33 at this time. So here's Blaine, and I'm pushing him, drink water. And of course, I'm drinking water because, of course, we're walking. So eventually we climb another hill, so here's the thing, right, about the Camino. You think it's a one mountain deal. It is not. It is a mountain up the Pyrenees, and then more mountains. And then you'll get eventually in the next few chapters, you'll see some just rolling hills. And then you're going to see Galicia, the state of Galicia, which is 3 more mountain ridges we're going to have to climb over. So when I took this photograph, I just thought to myself, my goodness, this is like the vast openness of life and all the opportunities that it has available for us. So Blaine, thanks to Blaine, he took this picture of me. You can see that, again, I'm fully maxed out right now. I've got the pants in there. I've got my bread, by the way, my baguette right there on the side of the backpack. It is packed to the max, man. And of course, I'm just having a gay old time, and I'm just like loving it. And I'm thinking to myself, this is like Sound of Music with Maria, and she's up there. And it's The Sound of Music. Oh, I forget the lyrics. But the point is I felt like I was like her in that moment, And that's the other thing. Like when you watch, like I remember seeing The Sound of Music, and I just at the awe and the beauty of it all, and to actually be able to truly express it and experience it yourself was fantastic. By the way, I have a gut picture. My gut's hanging out, and you'll see at the end of this journey, I lose a lot of weight. So does Blaine. So does all. So there we are. We're just continuing to walk down. These trees are so tall, man. I mean, you just cannot imagine how tall they really are. Unfortunately, at that time, I'm using a low-grade a low-grade camera. But it is what it is. And you, as they say, you kind of work with what you got. Again, more of the hillsides looking down into the mountains of where we're headed. And we're headed into these more mountainous areas. There we are, just some more photographs, just taking some time. Here we are, we're seeing some dams. So yes, you do have to cross across situations like this, where all of a sudden you're like, we got to walk across that. And so if you notice, we would later be met by this angel. I can't think of her name at the moment, goodness gracious, but we called her Team Ireland. She had her and her partner from Ireland, and they would become our angels down the road. And what to me this picture represents is kind of like our business life, our tax life. In that we have decided that we're going to go build the most perfect entity selection in the world, right? We listen to everyone's advice, and we quickly go file and become an LLC, let's just say. The problem is that if we commingle our funds, or if you become a C corporation and you commingle your funds, it is like this dam right here where you've got holes, and the water are the auditors, and they're pushing through. And so if we do not properly set up our entities correctly as business owners, it is much like this dam. You're going to have water that's going to gush through, and that's where we're going to find ourselves having to pay more in taxes. We're going to find ourselves, if someone sues us, that the entity does not protect us because we violated the entity rules. So this picture reminds me of that. It also reminds me about our human existence. If we have a dam up because people have done us wrong or whatever, we build up these artificial walls, it prohibits other people from coming into our lives and embracing us and loving us and accepting us. And so in a way, we have to actually learn to take those bricks down, which I know many of us do all the time and do it. And so anyway, so there's a photograph there of Team Ireland. We don't even know them quite just yet. They're still a stranger, still a mystery. She recognizes we're taking photographs. Again, just another city walking through, making our way. And we're still happy, by the way, at this point, because we haven't really climbed as steep of the mountains as we did the day before. So we're like, yes, we're like in the clear, baby. And I had to take pictures of all these gorgeous flowers. And then the reality is here comes the heat. Here comes the heat boiling down on us. Here comes the exhaustion is starting to creep in. We're starting to realize, like, holy moly, this is exhausting. Kind of reminds me of business, right? It's like you get up and you're like, I'm going to do this all by my lonesome self. And you start to do everything by yourself. And then all of a sudden you realize, I just cannot keep going on. I can't keep doing this by myself. And at the end of the day, we need support to come in. And what we would later find out, by the way, poppies, what we later find out is that people do come and show up all the time in your life, all the time, no matter where or what's happening to you. So I took this photograph because I wanted to remind myself that we had come from the very back tip of the ridge of this mountain back here just the day before. And again, I'm just looking to the past real quick, just to remind myself, wow, look how far I've come and look how far that I'm about to head. So this, again, we're still walking. And we are exhausted. And at this point, by the way, we still have not realized how far a fucking kilometer is. Okay, pardon my French, but we really have not figured out how far a kilometer is, right? Because if you're in America, we measure everything by miles, not by kilometers. And so when we saw 7.5 kilometers, we're like, oh, that's not very far. That's like just down the street. And if I'm correct, that translates into about almost about 4 miles, 5 mile-ish, give or take. It's 1.6 kilometers to a mile. So yeah, it's about 4-ish miles, give or take. So anyways, we are exhausted. We're day 2 into our journey. We have no idea what's about to come. All we know is that we're carrying everything under the sun. Blaine is carrying sandals. He decided to bring a pair of sandals. Believe it or not, the sandals would actually prove to be very heavy over time. So here we are, we're headed towards Zubiri. We're supposed to stop in Zubiri. I am upset. I am angry. I am beyond challenged. I am so pissed right now because I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And I still have not quite figured out that I'm transforming into a new person. This is still not happening yet. And isn't that kind of true when it comes to our tax lives? Like, this is the face of people that we make when we're like, I got to go file my tax return at the end of the year. Well, why do we make this face? Because we know that there's a looming tax bill that's coming. Or better yet, we're afraid of claiming all our deductions that we're legally entitled to. We just don't know yet that we are in a lot of pain. We're just refusing to understand that this is our reality. And of course, we would later learn, and as I learned almost 560 something miles later, that this is the face of somebody who doesn't realize that they're about to change. They're about to become somebody new. So there we are, exhausted, looking into the new path. And just like, seriously, right now, we have to walk some more. And so I'm not too happy that we got to walk more. I'm actually really upset. I'm like, I could be in Hawaii right now, drinking martinis, enjoying the sun, looking at cute guys walking across the beach in their Speedos. Like, that's my kind of vacation, not walking in the goddamn heat, carrying my whole house with me on my back. Like, this was not my ideal vacation. And so again, now we're reaching the top of the area of the mountain that we now are climbing into and climbed into. And now we're looking at the bottom, and we're seeing the bottom of Zubiri. This is Zubiri at the bottom, and we're super excited because we're like, okay, good, we're gonna get there now. Like, there's some hope. And it's kind of like in our business life, there's hope right? There's hope at the end of the tunnel. And to our shocking surprise, something else is going to change. So here we are. We're walking with Team California. There's Blaine walking. We're just kind of enjoying. We've now converted our pants into shorts. And if you're curious where we bought the shorts, we got them from RMI or REMI. I don't know. Some type of outdoor place. And we purposely purchased material that was extremely light. So these pants are made of some type of nylon material. I think they weigh less than an ounce. And by the way, these right here are our sleeping bags. And those are designed for light weather. And that weighed, I think it was about 4 ounces, something like that. And again, it sounds light, but when you're carrying it every single hour on your back, boy, oh boy, does it become heavy. So we're going to begin to ascend into more mountains. Of course, you got to go through more mountains to get to the other side. And we're hiking. We're going down some more mud. And of course, we got to have some fun, right? At the top, there's good old Blaine having fun. And again, now we're looking back down into the valley and we're all like, oh, can't wait to get there, because that means we can unpack and we can relax. And there I am being silly and whatnot. And I can finally just continue on my journey. So there we are taking a cute little camo shot. By the way, how gay is this? We have to have the same shoes. Isn't that just adorable? By the way, we have the same exact make, model, color car. We drive the same exact car. So that just tells you what kind of husband I have. I just love him so much. So there we are. We're just kind of like getting ready, continuing on our journey. I'm happy now. He's happy now, right? It's a reminder that our emotions are never stagnant. They're constantly moving moment by moment. I'm capturing Team California behind us. We're just strolling and we can see Zubiri in the future right there, babies, right there at the fingertips. We're like, yes, we're almost there. We see an abandoned something or another. And we're walking on the last, like, I guess you call this like a roadway there. And we're almost to Zubiri. And the name of the game, at least Blaine, he was such a pusher, and I appreciate him for that. He had mapped everything out, and he had to be at a city at a certain time, and he had mapped it all out because that's who he really is. And he had said, we're going to stop in Zubiri, and we were supposed to arrive around 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's the goal because you don't want to walk any longer than that. And so we're going to land in Zubiri. We're going to walk there, and Team California basically says to us, well, how about we continue on to the next town of Loroña, which is only 3 kilometers away. It's only 3 kilometers away. Again, we have not figured out the full distance of a kilometer yet. We have no freaking concept. And of course, they're 18. We were in our 30. We were 33 at the time, and you're feeling young, and I can do this, baby. He's like, yeah. And so we, of course, agree. Like, why not? We were absolutely loving our time hanging out with them. So we continue the journey, and we're walking, and I am beginning to get exhausted. Blaine, of course, is becoming exhausted, and we are stopping, and we're going, oh my goodness, we can't turn around and go backwards. That's never a possibility. Isn't that true with life? We can never just go backwards, right? You can only go forward. So we're like, oh my gosh. Well, let's just keep pushing. Let's just keep walking. So we pass Zubiri and we keep walking because the next town's only 3 kilometers away. It's not that far. And so we saw this beautiful waterfall and we're like, oh, this is great. This is fantastic. Well, just before this photo is taken, my husband is succumbed to heat exhaustion and water poisoning. And I also succumbed to heat exhaustion and water poisoning. Did you know that water can poison you? I'll let that sink in. Water can actually poison you. And what I learned in this moment is that when something is really good for you, appears to be really good for you, like water, it appears as harmless, it can actually have a negative effect on you. And it kind of reminds me of like when we look at material things outside of us and we go, man, that's a really good thing. And so we overindulge in it. And it actually causes more suffering, which is why we can say on one hand, if we actually meditate and think about this for a moment, that material things outside of who we are is actually inherently not really good for us. And it's not really bad for us. It's just a matter of overindulgence in those things that we do. So water appears as harmless, but it's actually very dangerous and causes water poisoning. And we actually did experience this. Same thing with, for example, working. If we are workaholics and all we want to do is focus on work, it feels good in the moment, but it actually is causing a lot of damage to us. That's the reality, right? Whether it's our family, our relationships, our physical bodies, our physical mind, all of that begins to kind of suffer from it. And so what happens here is that this is the lesson that I learned. Two lessons. One is that what appears to be perfectly natural and perfectly harmless can actually do detrimental damage to you. And number two, it would teach us in this moment how far a kilometer actually is. A 1 kilometer, honestly, if you told me to walk 1 kilometer right now, I would say, okay, in this heat, I don't think so, because to me, I now know how far a kilometer is, babies. And let me tell you, it's about half-ish a mile, give or take. But again, we didn't know that. And the other thing is we were walking with Team California, 18-year-olds. We were 33. This is the moment that my husband and I, as we arrive and cross the bridge, by the way, from the medieval times, this is the medieval bridge, yes, from the medieval ages, that crosses into the town of Lorenza. Yep, here it is right here. As we cross into it, we get word that the albergues, which again is where you stay at, typically run by the municipals, the cities or whatnot, are sold out. There's no more bedding here, people. There are no places for you to stay. And now it's 4:00 in the afternoon, 4:30, give or take. The weather's beating down on us. I think it was like in the high 80s and low 90s. And we are suffering. We are suffering from heat exhaustion, and we're suffering from water poisoning. And we are just like, please, like, what is going to be the next step? What is the next journey step here? And so what we would end up discovering is that the universe always says yes to your wishes. And all we wanted was a safe place to stay for that night, to relax and to reprieve, so that we could continue this amazing journey that I was absolutely hating at the time. And so what we then saw were people that were opening up their homes, and they were shouting out, "Peregrinos, peregrinos, vente aquí, tengo camas," meaning like, pilgrims, come here, I have beds for you, And out of the kindness of the people who lived in this town, they opened up their homes and allowed stragglers like ourselves to come into their homes and to lay on their beds and essentially get rest for like nothing, really. And I remember that night when we crawled into the bed, I was shaking, I was shivering. And I had my bag full of clothes, full of everything. Like I said, 5 pants to walk in, 5 shirts, 4 shorts, all the water, everything all packed in there. My husband, same thing, my sweaters, jackets, it was all my goddamn backpack. And we were also carrying bed bug sheets, because the world kept telling us that there were bed bugs. And so we didn't, God forbid, we got bed bugs, And so essentially we just laid there. And this is a great segue, because Jacob asks the question, like, how did you power through the fear and choose to keep going? And what happened, Jacob, is we are laying in the bed, and my husband's shivering, and I can tell he's just suffering, and I'm suffering. And this is the moment where I say to my husband, this is the moment in which we have to have faith in a higher power to protect us and to guard us and to lead us into safe places. And it's going to help us so that we don't encounter bed bugs, to help us to step into the power of, I don't need to carry all of my clothing, et cetera, et cetera. And exactly, so many entrepreneurs give in when it's so hard. And do you see? Yes. So the reality is that it's exactly that, Jacob. The reality is, as business owners, we wake up with this dream, this idea that we're going to go make our self-made names. We're going to become self-made people. And there's not one person that's going to stop us, right? Like, woohoo! Like, I'm going to get up there and I'm going to I'm going to show off my tits. Boop. And that's what we do, right? Like, that's what we do. And what we don't realize are all the unknowns happening to us. And so what we have to do as business owners too, is that when we start to experience shrinkage, which isn't a good thing for us guys, but when we begin to experience shrinkage, or we begin to experience like people maybe like clients leaving us, or we're not closing deals, or whatever happens in our business, it's a reminder for us to step back and to simply ask ourselves, what is really the universe trying to tell me? Because the universe is only answering our wishes. And if we're secretly making wishes like, I don't really want to do this. Like, I woke up and I decided to be my own realtor and I don't really want to do this. I don't really enjoy this anymore, right? The universe is going to go, oh, you don't want to be a realtor anymore? Absolutely. Let's change paths. Let's find something you do like. And so it begins to bring people into your lives and different situations. And it's up to us to kind of sit back and go, oh, I see the dots. I'm connecting the dots. So luckily for me in this moment, while I was suffering from heat exhaustion and water poisoning, it was that moment of saying, I have to have faith that we're going to be protected and guarded. And we're also not 18 years old. We're 33 fucking years old at that time. And what that meant is that we could not just charge on with the younger crowd. We couldn't just, try to walk in their shoes and compare ourselves to them and be like them. We had to allow ourselves to accept that we were middle-aged men, 33 years old, and that it's okay if we take our time. And here's something really special about this journey is before we cross this bridge, Blaine and I are walking along this path and we can barely walk. I mean, truly, honestly, we can't even walk. And Team Ireland, two beautiful, wonderful women, showed up out of the blue. And they basically grabbed each of our shoulders underneath and they said like, hey, can we help you? How can we help you? And they came to support us and they became our amazing angels to help us to walk the rest of this, few kilometers. And in many ways, I like to think of that of like when business owners are finally up to here. And it's the reality of going, oh my gosh, I just came into contact with you, right? Because they make a wish. And people like ourselves, tax experts like Jacob, myself, my friend Jay, my friend Sanella, like a whole bunch of other my friends, when they come across us, it's like as if we are those people like Team Ireland that shows up to help us to continue on the journey. And that's what we do as tax planners, right? Is we take the stress away from stressing about that upcoming looming tax bill or the potential of being audited or maximizing my deductions. And it's about taking that away and removing that fear and the anxiety and helping you so that you can be successful, so that you can become the rhythm of success that you ultimately have been brought here to experience for yourself. And absolutely, each person defines their own success. And this is the reality here. So yeah, so we end up spending the night. And needless to say, I'll leave it right here. We're coming to the 45-minute mark. I am doing my best to keep these at 45, but I'll leave these parting words. And that is it's never too late to learn when it's okay to say, maybe I should just let it all go. And I don't mean like life. I mean like when it's okay to let go of all of the things that hold us down, that drag us down. As a matter of fact, that night when I said to Blaine, we just have to trust in a higher being, I actually dumped all of my possessions out of my backpack. I actually threw away all of my pants except for one pair. I threw away all the shorts except for one to sleep in at night. I threw away all of my shirts so that I just had one shirt to walk in, one to sleep in. We let go of the bed bug covers. We let that all go. And I also learned how to walk with half a bag of water as opposed to a full bag of water. And I just let it all go. And when we did, it kind of allowed me to have a new perspective as we continued on this walk. Like, for example, looking at this gorgeous waterfall right before us here. And I'll save the story. We'll leave off with Blaine. He's a natural cat whisperer. So if there's pussy around, he likes to pet him. And this particular one kept on coming up to him, and he naturally has to love on it. And many, many cats would come into Blaine's life. Till next week, chapter 3, we'll talk about the journey from, let's see here, from La Rosona to probably the city of Pamplona. Pamplona will be the next destination. That's a famous city in Spain, known for the running of the bulls. And that particular journey is where I learned the importance of how to properly hike in the mountains. And I will tell you the story of how I met a 79-year-old Frenchman walking in reverse, and how I was so thankful that I speak French, because I had an amazing night with him, staying up late at night in the kitchen, and he gave me some amazing advice. And so leave it at that. And just remember that if you are a business owner and you are finding yourselves at wit end, or if you're finding yourself a struggle to maximize those taxes, or staying up all night long because you're worried about being audited, you're worrying about that tax bill, quite honestly, let's get naked at nakedtaxtalk.com, and let's see if we cannot get you in here for a free discovery meeting, 30 minutes, where we will analyze and see if perhaps maybe moving you into a tax plan is the right thing for you. So if you'd like to reach out, let's get naked at nakedtaxtalk.com. You can also reach out to us by texting Let's Get Naked to 555-888. You'll get put into our mailing list, and you'll meet CensorBot, and then you'll be asked to schedule a one-on-one with me. Again, it's a free, I shouldn't even use that word because it's not true. Nothing's free in this world, right? How about this? It's me truly, honestly gifting you half an hour of my time so that we can find out if, in fact, we can maximize your taxes, if we can save you money. Maybe you could be like one of the recent client that we just helped, where we were able to show her that we could have saved her $159,794 in taxes. Now, wouldn't that be something you could put in your pocket so you could go fulfill your dreams? So with that in mind, I'm Jonathan Bengal here, the host of Naked Tax Talk. If you are an expert, by the way, in the areas of finance, if you're an expert in the area of life coaching, health coaching, if you're an expert in advanced tax strategies like conservatory easements or anything like that, if you are in the life insurance, health insurance, or any of the insurances, if you're an attorney, if you are a marketing sales funnel person, website developer, you name it, if you're any of these businesses and you'd like to be a guest on my show, please reach out to me and let me know you're interested. Let's get naked at nakedtaxtalk.com. And the reason for that is because on Thursdays or Fridays, I try to bring on a guest to continue to bring value to my viewers. Okay, until next week, chapter 3, when we talk about the journey of Pamplona and how that would teach us the lesson of the kindness of unity as we all come together. So until then, may you all have a great and amazing day, evening, morning, whenever you're watching this, and toodles noodles.